subject-oriented approaches to finding cases. And truth be told, you all, most likely, I'm guessing, already use this topical approach. How many of you, at the very least, have heard of and probably use hashtags? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right? Yeah, hashtags. Really, hashtags are a topical approach. So I happen to be a Game of Thrones fan. So, I want to check out what's going on in hashtag Game of Thrones. Or maybe, now Game of Thrones obviously covers how many seasons is it?
6.
We're going to 6. When is the new one starting?
July.
Summer.
It's
Okay.
very sad.
Yeah. All right. Let's fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So, of course, and for those of you who aren't fans or worse yet are trying to catch up, I'm going to try to make this not be a spoiler. So I, of course, think one of the best storytelling aspects of Game of Thrones, or storytelling aspects I've seen, is the concept of hold the door. So, I want to check out hashtag hold the door. Right. So hashtag hold the door, right, is a subset of hashtag Game of Thrones. So really, you all now understood key numbers. But that's essentially what the key number system and the head note system on Lexis is. It's just a more involved, slightly more complicated version of the hashtags. So if we can find our one relevant case, so we're taking a look at Aetna here on Westlaw. The hashtags, the tagging, are, another word for that is basically head notes. So we're taking a look at the parts of the case. So the head notes in this part over here, the whole thing is really called the digest. Back in the old days when we had to do this in print, we went to something called a digest. It's just a subject index for cases. So now we are now looking at the digest, quote unquote, on Westlaw. And again, digest is a word you might encounter, so that's why I want to throw it out there for you. So here are our hashtags. Now, slightly more, and only slightly, I think, more involved than the basic hashtag Game of Thrones or hashtag hold the door. Our hashtags on Westlaw, our head notes, I'm going to use the official term now, our head notes on Westlaw are actually two parts, kind of like an address. So if you're looking for a particular building on Fifth Avenue in New York, so I'm just making this up, I don't even know if this is a real address, 735 Fifth Avenue. I've got that whole long street, Fifth Avenue, right? I certainly don't want to have to drive from one end to the other, so I don't have to walk from one end to the other, I don't think I could. Even driving is going to take quite a while depending on traffic, so I want to know the precise number. So our head notes work the same way. We have topics. So this first head note covers the topic removal of cases. But the specific legal issue in this particular head note, not that specific admittedly, is in general. And yes, sometimes the hashtags or the head notes are going to be more informative than others. And what we see here is the hierarchy. So let's actually go to a head note that is a little more interesting to us. So what we see here is head note number 8. I click on that 8. That's going to bring me down into the opinion where these issues are discussed. And as you can see, head note 8 actually covers a bunch of different topics: insurance, labor, and stakes. Let's focus on insurance because that's what we're most interested in. So under the insurance topic, it's basically a hierarchy. So if I have Game of Thrones and then I have what was the last season? 6. Season 6. And then I have the particular character, I don't want to give it away in case somebody is still watching. And then I have the particular area I'm interested in, hold the door. That's my hierarchy. So here I have insurance, and then under insurance, what law governs. Then within that subtopic, the subtopic, preemption, application of state or federal law, and then a couple of different key numbers, the actual, and I know it's a key number because I see the K there. And I know this is the key number system because, get it, they use the key symbol, and that is proprietary. So you can think of the key symbol as the literal hashtag. Have my, taken all of the, all right, well, you're going to have to picture the hashtag. You know what it looks like. So we use the key symbol instead. So we have insurance topic, and we have particular laws or activities, employee benefits, healthcare benefits. That sounds kind of relevant, right? So I am now using one relevant case, found insurance, healthcare benefits, and this particular key number. Now I'm sure at least some of you are just dying, why aren't we clicking on it? We will, I promise. Scroll down. So here, within the same case, covers a different topic. Covers health. So under the health topic, also sounds like it could be relevant, right? So again, the subdivision, malpractice, negligence, or breach of duty. That does sound rather promising. In general, I don't know why they do in general, but it's there, so you have to get used to it. And then preemption, it's another issue of ours, right? So that one could be relevant as well. And we will click on those in a moment. I want to step back and give you a sense now that we've gotten to know some of these topics and hierarchy a little bit. This is a part of the what's called, surprise, surprise, the West key number system, and you can actually look at the whole hierarchy should you be so inclined. And this is not necessarily a good idea, but just to give you a sense of what it looks like. So if you wanted to look at it on Westlaw, this Tools tab, the West key number system. And what we see is the whole system, all of the different topics. So we saw two. We saw health, we saw insurance. Sure enough, there it starts with A, abandoned property, and I think the last one is zoning, and goes through a whole lot of over 400 topics in between. Yep, last one's zoning. So I don't actually recommend you trying to browse through this to figure out a topic for a particular issue, because you'd have to kind of guess at the topic heading. And some of the topic headings in here are not necessarily intuitive. So for instance, we have some of the odder ones, malicious mischief. Sounds kind of fun, but I don't really know what that is. And then another one of my favorites here, time. They're going to talk about the daylight savings that's going to happen this weekend. I don't know. So you can, some of them you can guess. I mean, we saw earlier health, that's pretty straightforward. Labor and employment, kind of straightforward, right? Although interestingly, labor and employment was renamed. This system started back in 1876 or 86, it doesn't matter, a long time ago. So names sometimes change. So the labor and employment topic way back when used to be called master and servant. And I think Wes kind of got the idea that probably doesn't sound too great in the 21st century, so we're going to change it. So they changed it and then restructured, and of course we have new areas of the law, right? The internet didn't exist in 1876, it didn't exist in 1976, or at least not that everybody used. So they had to fit in topics regarding technology and other aspects of life that have evolved over time. So these topic hierarchies, the topic names, the structure within each topic may get changed. So if we were interested, so you might notice on top here, oh look, there's a search bar. We love search bars. Why not just search and figure it out that way, right? This is one thing you could do. It's not one approach I would recommend. And to show you why, which will also give us a little bit more of a sense of the system. So managed care, that's one of our terms, right? So if I plugged in managed care, I get something, workers' compensation, not relevant, okay, health is relevant, but if I look at these, none of these are really reimbursement, compensation, nothing really that useful. However, if for whatever reason I went with health maintenance organization, if I chose the right term, then I might get lucky. I'm not really into spending my time hoping I'm lucky. So here, again, the health topic, persons liable, health maintenance organizations. Key number 785 under health. That sounds pretty good. So yes, it is possible to find useful key numbers. Notice 785 is not the key number that we found in the Aetna case. We were actually looking at key number 607. Maybe you didn't notice, so hopefully you'll take my word. Which brings us to another aspect of using this system. Understand that frequently, especially with complex topics like ours, one key number is probably not going to answer your question and cover the entire issue. Frequently, there'll be a couple or more, sometimes across a couple of topics. We've seen insurance and health as two potential topics for us to investigate the key numbers. Another example of this that I think spells it out is, again, looking at our topic hierarchy. I went into the topic civil rights. And if I were interested in the question of sex discrimination with regard to employment and specifically promotion, and if I had another client who wanted to claim that she was discriminated against and didn't get her promotion because she was discriminated against because of her gender, I might take a look at employment practices under civil rights. And what I would notice is that so here's a key number for promotion, but it doesn't say what type of discrimination. So there are unfortunately many different types of discrimination. So it could be racial discrimination, it could be sex discrimination, it could be all sorts of other types. And then I'd have to look further to notice that there is also a totally different key number for sex discrimination. So here's an example where I might want to find cases that have both. So again, just this explanation is to point out, yes, you can search this. Not sure it's the best strategy, and frequently, especially complex issues and questions, will involve more than one topic and most likely more than one key number. Okay, so let's go back to our Davila case. And as promised, so if we take a look, as I said, under that health topic, notice that was 607. So that 785, which looked really promising, right? If I just searched that key number, I wouldn't have pulled up the Davila case. And if you take my word and take the secondary source's word that this is an important case, then you would have missed out on an important Supreme Court case. So just, again, re-emphasizing that you don't want to limit yourself to just one key number for complex issues. So as promised, let's take a look at one of these key numbers. And so we found these insurance one, healthcare benefits, and I asked, why don't we click on it? So let's click on it. And what we get when we click on it are other headnotes, not opinions. So please understand that this is one of those important bibliographic awareness issues. You are getting other headnotes using that key number, the insurance topic, and then the key number 1117 sub 3, healthcare benefits. Also notice our jurisdiction, super important. United States Supreme Court. The reason it brought us to the Supreme Court is that we started in a Supreme Court case. If I had started in a New York case, it would bring us to New York cases. It is, however, super easy, myself there, super easy to change our jurisdiction, just as we are used to. So we could change our jurisdiction. Let's say New York. I think I'll skip New Hampshire, but let's include related federal. I always like to keep the Supreme Court, although it should include it with the related federal. And presto, voila, we now have New York, state, and federal cases, including the Supreme Court. So now I can scroll through and look at these headnotes that use that particular key number on the insurance topic, healthcare benefits. So any questions about that? Now within these results, I could say, okay, healthcare benefits, but we're talking about denial of care, right? I would really love to see if there are any head notes. And again, we're talking about the head notes now, so you don't want to be so super specific because it's not the full opinion. But any head notes, because they summarize the case or they talk about denial of care. We have our ever favorite search within results. And remember, search within results, we have to use terms and connectors. It doesn't do plain language. So I'm just going to go for the word deny, denial, any form. I'm not even going to get as involved as denial / something care. And so within New York Federal and Supreme Court, here are 7 cases. And again, don't get hung up on numbers. I noticed that in the assignment too. A lot of you thought, oh, I had too many or I had too few. There is no such thing as the right number. The right number are the relevant cases or the relevant statutes. And that's obviously going to be different every issue. So 7 may be too few, 7 may be too many. I don't know. I need to look at the cases, but this is a means to help me narrow down. And I want to take a look at the HMO CNY case and scroll down and look at these other cases as well. And see if I can start to identify cases that are relevant to my issue. Excuse me. Okay, so on one of the handouts, you'll notice, or the one handout we haven't looked at yet, techniques for finding cases. What I have tried to do with this handout is to outline for you what I'm going over in class today. So, technique, keyword search, find a relevant case. And then part A talks about what gives you the steps that basically I just did. So part A, find a head note, click on it. Maybe use search within results, remembering to change your jurisdiction as appropriate. But we've been talking about, or at least I've been talking about, the fact that, hey, in a complex issue, rarely is one head note going to cover your entire issue. So how can we use this if we've got a complex issue that covers a bunch of different head notes and probably even a bunch of different topics? And the answer to that is to go back to our search. So when you find a good search, and I am using this as a good search, again, I probably want to add health maintenance organization, but so you don't have to watch me type, we'll shorten it a little bit. And I'm going, so I did my search, I limited it to cases, talking about cases. I am being bibliographically aware that I am still limited to New York State and federal, but for right now, that's okay. And within my search results, there is a key number filter. So scrolling down to my filters, I'm passing the jurisdiction filter for a moment and going into, I'm not doing the topic, I could limit by just the topic, so, but these are not head note topics. So honestly, I find this topic confusing. I just scroll right past it. I go straight down to the key number. And the cool thing about this is that what the key number filter does once I've done a search. So I can't use this key number filter if I just pull up a case, like I just pulled up Aetna. I didn't do a search, I just said find me Aetna, Westlaw. This wouldn't work for that. This works only when I do a keyword search. So I've done a keyword search and I'm looking at my filters. And what the key number filter tells me is all of the different topics and key numbers that are in the results. So all the cases that I found, however many, 97 I think it was, doesn't matter. Here are the different topics and key numbers that I found. Now I've already looked at a relevant case, so I have a sense of which topics and key numbers are of interest. I don't want account, I don't want action, I know I don't want antitrust. But what I might want, scrolling through here, is health. Now I don't want just the health topic, that's way too broad, right? So if I want to narrow it, I can click on the link, and it gives me the different subtopics, again, from my results, that are in my results. So there's regulation in general, government assistance. Oh, look, there's that one, malpractice, negligence, or breach of duty. So the cool thing is, if I decide that sounds pretty relevant, I could add it, or I could see, hey, look, let's see if I want to go even more specific. In general, particular procedures, persons liable, maybe actions and proceedings. So I could do the persons liable, or I think I'm just going to go back and do overall malpractice, because I'm not quite sure what's going to be. Once I see in general, I get a little nervous, because sometimes the really useful stuff is under in general. So I know practice, negligence, or breach of duty is relevant, so I'm going to add that. And then, as you know, I no longer watch late night TV, so I don't know if I can say, but wait, there's more, but wait, there is more. So let's take a look and see another topic, and here's the trick. You have to know to go back to home. Let's go home. And then I can scroll down and look at what other topics are there. So we've already looked at health, so I'm going to go past that, but I know we might be interested in insurance, and I know the whole overall insurance topic is way too broad. So maybe what law governs might be interesting. None of these others look particularly. Contracts and policies, I could add that if I want. I could go more specific if I want. What law governs? Choice of law? Ooh, preemption. I could just add that whole subtopic, or I could go narrower. Now here's the trick, and it's really confusing. It took me like 3 times to remember this, I will confess. Remember, we were looking at insurance 1117 sub 3. And I'm thinking, where is that? Because this is still a link that's telling me there's more. And I keep on clicking, and there's more, and there's that 1173. But probably, again, I don't know that, again, I see that in general, and who knows, maybe they're using that. So I'm probably going to go back up a little bit and maybe just use the what law governs, because that seems to cover my issue without having to guess which of those other subtopics that may or may not be relevant. So I'll just click add on that. And then once I'm happy, I could add more if I want. I could add specific key numbers or subtopics like we've done here. Once I'm happy with it, I say yes, post law, go filter. And again, I'm within New York and federal, and I can take a look at my results. I can filter further. I can search within results. The other thing I can do, again, remember, I like to pull things full circle from our conversation earlier. I can say, I really only want to see cases from my department. So let's see what's there. And as it turns out, there's nothing from the second department, so I'm going to have to be happy with the first and fourth department, but understanding that that may or may not be authoritative if there's whether or not there's a case in the second department. But again, just to show you that that filter is there and you can limit by department. Any questions about using the key number filter? This is one of the reasons why this course is called Advanced Technical Research, because this is pretty advanced, it's pretty in the weeds, you kind of to understand what you're looking at when you're looking at those topics. And as you can see, yeah, question.
You said earlier that one of those key bibliographic things we need to recognize is the part when you pull up the key number and then you're getting the other head notes. You're saying you're getting the other head notes as well as the key number. Could you explain that one more time? When you pulled it and there was that drop down menu of like one key site leading to the other.
You're talking about the filter that I was?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's undo filters. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, so help me out here if you would. So what I'm talking about is using this key number filter once I've done a search. So I'm looking at search results. I'm not looking at maybe what you were confused about, again, I'm not sure, is these topics I find confusing, so don't get confused. This is not the system I'm talking about. They may be useful, and if you click on them and they're useful, go for it. But if we're talking about using the key number system, we want to go down to the key number filter. And then within the filter, these are the different topics that are in the cases in my results. And we've already looked at a case, so I would look at the health topic. And then I might go with the subtopic. I can either just add that subtopic, or I could drill down further. Again, I'm not sure what in general is, particular procedures, person's liable may be interesting, so maybe I want to go that specific. So a little bit more general when I'm first starting out, because I don't know where something interesting might fall. So I'll click on add. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That was my question.
Okay. Other questions? Again, this is, as I said, this is fairly complex. And again, this is not to say this is a tool that you always need to use. This is a really specialized tool, and maybe you're keyword searching, maybe your Google Scholar search is fine. This is a tool to keep in mind when you're dealing, I think, especially with a complex issue, but even if you don't think it's a complex issue, if you're not getting results with keyword searching, understand that you have this key number system available to you. And there will be issues where this is going to give you much better results than keyword searching. And frequently those issues will be issues that involve very common terminology. I mean, we're talking about preemption. We're talking about health maintenance organizations. Those are very specific terms, so probably your keyword search is going to do pretty well. But if you're talking about, we were just talking about malpractice. I mean, there are a whole bunch of different types of malpractice, right? Or we were just talking about liability. I mean, liability is mentioned in practically 3/4 of the cases, I would guess, right? Because that's why maybe why people are suing and bringing the case. So if you're dealing with less specific terminology, that's when this keyword searching, talking about, because these key numbers are talking about areas of law, might be useful. Questions? Okay, so there are a couple of other advanced techniques that I think are worth showing. So the key number filter is one you get to using by searching and using the filter. These other advanced techniques are techniques you get to by choosing cases and clicking on the advanced search. And this is where those parts of the case come in, or another place. So, and the parts of the case are referred to as fields, and that's actually just a computerese term. So what I could do, maybe all this key numbers and topics, and I can't keep it straight, and the filter and bibliographic awareness, and I'm just confused. So one way to get around that is to use these fields. And all you have to remember to use these fields is this synopsis and digest. Remember I was talking about the summary or the synopsis at the top of the case? Summarizes what the case is about. And the digest, the whole head notes, topic, key number, hierarchy stuff, that's known as the digest. So maybe just let me search that and don't start me with filters and numbers and key numbers and hashtags and all of that. So you could just search that synopsis and digest, because again, that's telling you what the case is about. So, for example, if I want to search overall, because again, I'm interested in liability of HMO, so I want all of these terms in my search, which is, but again, because I'm in advance, I have to use terms and connectors. So LIAB/PHMO. So I just want those terms anywhere in my results. So in the opinion search, but I want to be very specific somewhere in that whole synopsis digest stuff, in the summary and head note stuff. I want to add additional term, so I could use our deny within the same paragraph. And again, when I'm in advance, I have to use terms in factor. And cover exclamation, so we get coverage. Whoops, it helps not to have typos in there. This is a little bit different than on your, so deny, so what's on your handout is deny/be care or coverage or benefits, I think. Oh, that's in the key number. That's in the B part. I'm now in C, and I want to add that. I want to do the same search, so add or care in there. And maybe or maybe not parentheses. It's probably not necessary. The point here, don't worry so much about the details of the search. Think about just utilizing the synopsis digest field, so it's a combination of both. And you don't have to put terms up here, but you can if you want. So you notice what Westlaw is doing, it's populating the search box up here for me, so I don't have to worry about the format, and then when I'm ready, I can click search. So again, that advanced search, you could use any combination of those fields. I am showing you one example that I personally think is particularly useful using all the terms in the synopsis digest. You could just use the synopsis digest. Using just all the terms is the same as just doing the regular keyword search. You can do that too. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, I'm trying to give you a couple of extra tools. Any questions? I'm going to go back to the advanced search one more time. I'm going to delete what I have here. I'm going to show you two other fields worth knowing about. And there are a lot of others that might be useful too. Don't have time to go over every single one, and I don't think it's worth the time to go over every single one. But the two that I think are worth noting are actually the two on the bottom. Words and phrases and written by. So, as we've talked about in the context of statutes, understanding the definition of words can be very important. Law is words. So that is true in case law as well as statutes. Sometimes judges, in their opinion, in the holding of the case, revolves around the definition of a word. Sometimes a word in the statute, sometimes just common law. If you want to find cases that judicially define those words, you can use the words and phrases field. These days, natural language, especially on Westlaw, is more useful. If you want to say define the word malpractice or define malpractice, you might actually get cases that define malpractice. But even as recently as a few years ago, that didn't work very well. So this words and phrases field was really, really good to know about. As I said, the natural language is better now, but sometimes you still may have trouble finding cases that define, in its discussion, tell you what, the judge tells you what the word means. So if we use our example, if I want to find out what malpractice means, and again, I'm in New York and related federal. So I'm just going to show you quickly this first case. So not surprisingly, malpractice appears in our headnotes because that's what the case is about. So in the absence of legislative definition, a word malpractice meaning given to such a term. So again, it's talking about there's no legislative definition of the word malpractice in whatever legislative area we're talking about. The meaning given to such term by courts and writers is best evidence of the true significance of the word. So again, you can see, I hope, that this case is talking about the definition of malpractice. So that's the function of the words and phrases field. The function of the written by field is hopefully what it sounds like. You, especially if you become a litigator, you'll be appearing before a particular judge, right? And you may want to know what that judge has written on your particular issue, or just generally. And you can now, and you can only do this online, you can do it on Lexis, and I'll show you that in a little while. You can search opinions written by particular judges. So since we're still in New York, let's see what Justice Sotomayor has written. And actually, I don't really want to limit it to malpractice. And you can see these are back when Justice Sotomayor was a circuit judge. Actually, no, this is a Supreme Court case. That is the Hobby Lobby case. It's a pretty famous case. Right, so here are the opinions, both Supreme Court and lower federal courts, back when Justice Sotomayor was in the lower federal courts. You can see opinions written by her. So if you're before the Supreme Court or for any other court, you can search what opinions judges have written. Any questions? So I don't know if you have noticed, but on the other side of the techniques where I list the ones we've gone over, there's another technique. I'm not going over this. This is a really advanced and possibly somewhat confusing technique. The reason I'm not going over it is honestly the key number filter that I showed you pretty much does what this does. But if you want to start to get really into the weeds and really figure out how all this works, this is an example. And I should say, if you really want to get into weeds and figure out how all this works and use this example, you might want to do what I do for a living, because this is what we do. But I wanted to give that to you if anybody who's interested. If you are not interested entirely. Do try to understand the key number filter, though. That is worth note. Okay, so having gone through all that, I think it is time to put it to work. So I'm going to pass out a workshop, and we're going to do a little bit of issue spotting first, because that is a good habit to be in. Sure. No, I think I have one. Not all. There's my copy. Good.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a little issue spotting. I did want to use the board, but both my marker and the classroom markers have gone missing. So we're all just going to have to use our memories. It's scary for me, but I'll be brave. So everybody have a copy? Ready to go around? So our question on which we are going to spot the issues. As a lawyer, can you be sued if you forget to update, and the law you relied on is superseded? Eek. So, they said I don't have my marker, sorry about that. So who are we talking about here? So we're going to do the who, what, when, where, why, and legal theory. And we may skip a couple of them because they may not be relevant. But who's almost always relevant. Who are we talking about? Lawyers. Also known as? Okay. What are we talking about here? Okay, lawyers are attorneys, malpractice, due diligence. Anything else? Okay, who, what, where? I haven't said where. For now, we will not be specific, but we will narrow to New York later on. What, where, when? Haven't said when either. Again, these are questions you want to remember to ask, because if the person asking you to do this research hasn't told you, you need to know. So we will say the when was a month ago, so we don't have to worry about statutes of limitations. So who, what, where, when. Not sure the why is relevant. Anybody have a why that they think is important? Okay. Legal theory. And again, some of these might also overlap. What would be the legal theory? Malpractice, we already said it, exactly. Possibly due diligence. Okay, so let's come up with a couple of searches. And some of you, so what would be our search? So what I'm asking you to do in the assignment is basically to first find a relevant case. So we don't have to worry about key numbers and topics. We want to just find our relevant case first. So one way, of course, to find the relevant case is to do keyword search. So what's going to be our keyword search? And we can do more than one because, as I said, it's probably best to try different searches because our first set of terms may not be the best. Let's see.
I did lawyer or attorney and malpractice and law and research, and you said we're keeping it general right now and then going to New York later?
This is true. So you added another term in there.
Yeah.
What term was that?
I added research.
Added research.
And I'm looking at Dixon, Ticonderoga versus O'Connor.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so that's great. You're jumping in and searching. If you haven't started searching, please do. And actually, I think Tosif has the best approach. We talked about the terms. Throw in your terms and see what you find. And then start looking at cases and see if you can find a good topic and key number. I will walk around in case you have difficulty navigating, and we will stop and chat in a couple of minutes. If you have questions, wave, jump up and down, yell. Yeah, we're trying to find a relevant case. But by topic, I mean the topic at the top of the headnote that on Westlaw is right next to the headnote number, typically in blue. Once you're looking at the case. Okay, so we're starting off with the search, and we're hoping to find a topic and key number. So we finding a topic and key number? Anybody? That's another way. Who here has found what they think is a decent topic and key number? Raise hands. Okay, who's still working? Okay, a couple of more minutes. What I'm going to do is stop after a couple of questions and we'll talk and then we'll move on. So go ahead and move ahead if you've already answered the first couple of questions. If not, don't worry about it. Question? Pardon me?
I think he may have asked the same question, but this would be the topic, right? And this would be the subtopics.
Right.
To do a very general that.
So the top level is the topic, and then you've got subtopics, and when you see the K. So the topic will have.
Okay, this is one thing we didn't go, well, we'll go over it. But the topic will have a number and a name. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute or two when we discuss our results. For the first couple of questions. Yeah.
So the topic
Yo,
is
Nick.
right next to the number.
Nick, you got the keys?
Client, key
You
number.
got the keys? You just got the keys. Thank you. You made your key a success right here.
Okay, I think a lot of people are narrowing in. So who thinks they found a really good key number and topic? Don't be honest. Okay, so what was your search? I'll let you get to all states and federal. I should have done this before. Okay, so I'm in cases, so legal, malpractice. What did you say? Research. No one wanted to search for update, update, and update? I'm so disappointed. Okay. And were you in all state federal, or so what case did you? First one. And which? Second. Look at that. So, I could have all of your attention. So, legal malpractice research. None of you fell for the update, update, and update. And whoever you both, or you all, whoever came up with you hit upon the malpractice. And if you notice in reading the question, it didn't mention the word malpractice, and you came up with research. You broadened out and realized that updating, updating, updating has to do with research, which, given that you've heard it in advanced legal research now for the past 2 months, is a good thing. So, attorney and client. A number of people are a little still confused, understandably. What's the topic? What's the key number? So, attorney and client is the topic. How do you tell? It's the phrase next to the head note, so that numbered box, and it's at the top here of the hierarchy. Subtopic, duties, liabilities of attorney. Key number, research and knowledge of law. And I know it's the key number because there's a K, and then I see 112.50. What's this 45? 45 is the number assigned to the attorney and client topic. That number is something you would use if you wanted to do that crazy, really advanced search that I put on the back of your sheet. Again, I'm not suggesting that you do that really advanced search, but that's why you would want to know that number. Otherwise, probably not all that useful to worry about the number. But don't get the number. What you want to know is the text of the topic, because then you know if it's relevant or not, right? 45 doesn't mean anything to us. Attorney and client means
means a lot to us.
Okay, anybody find any other topics and key numbers? One thing that sometimes is useful, now I mentioned that I don't use the search very much, but sometimes what I will do, and again, if this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry too much about it, is I will take a look at that table of contents of key numbers. So I'll go back to the home page, I'll go to Tools, I'll go to Westlaw Key Number System, I'll go to the topic that I've now identified. And by the way, when you're looking at this key number system, there's never a charge for it. For those of you thinking about cost, let's go down to attorney and client. And I might take a look at the table of contents and see what else is around what I have found. So elements of malpractice and negligence, that could be interesting, although I think most specific research and knowledge. Okay. So continue on with the questions. And we're going to stop after question 8. We'll get back to the other questions, don't worry about this. Stopping at 8. If you have questions again for navigating, there's a lot of clicking and numbering that can get confusing. Another shortcut way to get to that table of contents with all that clicking back. Once you've done your search using the key number filter, actually a sort of mini table of contents also.
Question 7 is just under New York jurisdiction.
Question 7. So 5, limit to New York. Look quickly. Go back to Westlaw. Yes. Yeah.
Where's the notice to decisions on this one? That's what I'm saying. It's so weird.
Screaming at me. Now, the key number filter, you need to go back to your search results. So whatever case you found some good key numbers, if you go back to your search results, and scroll down. Okay, first you limit to cases. Right. Moment. Now you limit to cases. Once you're limited to cases in your search results, then if you scroll down, you see the key number. Topics, and you click on the link.
And this is different. This is for the general.
Right. Oh, yes, I can see where that's
Right, okay.
You've included due diligence. May or may not be that. But that's why the numbers are pretty.
It's not necessarily wrong. I think I should try it out.
It depends on which is more relevant. You have to look at your results to answer that. Again, don't get caught up on numbers. Just keep in mind, the more search terms you add, the more restricted your search will be. That might be a good thing, or it might be restricting it too much. There's no way to tell. Look at the results. Results are everything. Relevant. Ahead of us, but that's okay.
If I want a case that's defining legal malpractice, what I did was that I found the head note, the key site in there, and then I found it's at 13 cases cited. And that head note defined legal malpractice. So my intention for those cases defined legal malpractice.
Those cases are citing to that head note. I would have to, it depends on what that head note actually says. All that head notes talk, that the text of that head note talks about defining malpractice, then yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll show you right here.
How did you get to that first case?
So this case, this is under synopsis and digest. I did attorney or lawyer or legal and malpractice and research. And then I got this one right here, which talked about the attorney's failure to properly research the law. But they denied the motion for some reason. The first head note is an action for legal malpractice requires these three elements. It's at 13 cases.
So that's not necessarily defining malpractice.
Okay.
That's talking about that head note and what the elements of malpractice are. Where I was pointing you to, and there's nothing wrong with doing a keyword search, but again, that's not necessarily defining it. Back, if you go back to a search and you go to advanced,
Oh.
that's going to define.
Okay. Which one?
Well, you're just limited,
Uh,
which is okay, and you also have the other terms in there.
so I guess I have at least one case. And if I wanted to just. Okay.
Once you, and I think you've already noticed this, once you populate up there using that advanced search, you can play around with it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Question over here, I saw an arm. No arms. Okay, let's stop for now. We'll have another opportunity in a few minutes. A couple of things to point out, and then we're going to talk briefly about Lexis and Bloomberg, and then we'll go back and finish the workshop. As is always pointed out to me that I neglect to mention, sometimes I've limited to cases. If you don't limit to cases until after, so let's see, I know I'm doing a different search here, but for the purposes of this, it doesn't really matter. Whatever your search is, you'll see the key numbers link there. That's going to get you to something totally different than the key number filter. It's just going to get you a better, it's not going to allow you to filter through, it's just going to give you that list of key numbers. Where you want to remember to go is a little bit further down where you see the filters and you see key number and then you go to select. And again, why I like the filter so much is you can go to a specific key number, like we found 112.50. But what I actually like is you can also just stop at the subtopic level. So maybe I just want to stop here at duties and liabilities of attorney, which if I were to click on it further, I would see includes elements of malpractice, and sure enough also includes our research. So I don't have to worry about exactly which it's going to fall under. I just go with the subtopic, and to do that I just click on add. It depends again on your issue. Maybe 112.50 is the one we want. This is a fairly simple issue, unlike our ongoing liability of HMOs issue. Any other questions? Do you understand the rationale for searching by topic? This example, the attorney malpractice, is probably one that's better suited to a key number filter, because if you think about it, the word malpractice, the word attorney are going to show up in a whole lot of cases. Now again, the Westlaw plain language searching is pretty good, so maybe the plain language search you did find good cases and you don't have to worry about it. But this might be an example where it isn't as, the plain language searching or even the terms and connector searching won't get us as targeted results as a key number attorneys and client 112.50 would get. Make sense? Questions? Arguments? Okay. Let's look at Lexis and Bloomberg. We already took a look at Google Scholar. As you probably won't be surprised, Lexis does have a similar system. Again, I personally don't think it is as powerful as the Westlaw system because, in my opinion, it's not as flexible. It is, however, more straightforward, and that definitely is a benefit. So it's not to say one is better than the other, it's a preference. And as I'm one of the crazy people who love this crazy search back here, the flexibility of Westlaw is going to appeal to me. However, this may not appeal to you. You may like the more straightforward, so the Lexis might be actually better for you. And if you have both systems, then you get to choose. If you don't, then you learn how to take advantage of whichever one you have. So how to take advantage of the Lexis system. Again, we are at Aetna. And the different parts of the case, which actually Lexis labels a little bit better for us. So we have the case summary, we even have an outcome, and then we have LexisNexis headnotes. As you can see, LexisNexis headnotes look much different than Westlaw headnotes. They are not the same. You can't take attorney-client 112.50 and translate it into Lexis, just as you can't take Lexis headnotes and translate it into Westlaw. They are like Coke and Pepsi. They do not share their formulas. They are competitors. So don't you expect to see one or get confused between one and the other. They are very different. They look very different. Obviously, they cover legal topics, so sometimes they're going to use the same terminology. So looking at the headnotes here, the terminology in the Lexis headnotes, we see lots of civil procedure. Then we see pension and benefits law. And by now, having done some secondary research, even though we're interested in healthcare, we know that that sometimes falls under pension and benefits because ERISA covers both. So again, why that secondary source research is so useful. So we might know that pension benefits, oh look, federal preemption. So we have both the description of the headnote, we have the topics of the headnotes, and then we have the description. So here's headnote number 4, and it talks about federal preemption, and I can read the headnote to see what this particular point of law is, and if it's of interest, and if it is, I can just click on it, and you'll notice there's a general overview, and again, why do we say general? I don't know, I think it's I don't know. Let's just leave it at that. So we can click on that. There are a couple of things we can do. You'll see this arrow. I'm just going to go with regular federal preemption. We can get the documents, which we'll do in a second, and that will get us other cases that use this headnote, kind of like Westlaw, or we can view in topic index, which is a little bit different. So what Lexis will do for us is it will tell us exactly what the context is of this topic. And just like we saw the hierarchy in Westlaw, attorney-client, duties and liabilities, research, we can see the hierarchy. So we start ERISA, federal preemption, and we can get more specific if we want. More often than not, what you'll want to do is just click on the Get Documents. So let's go down to that. So you can see what that looks like. And as I said, it pulls up cases that use that particular headnote. And you may want to narrow by jurisdiction. You can search within results, just as we did with Westlaw. Any questions? I'm going to go back. The other thing Lexis will do, which actually isn't on Westlaw, is depending on your case, it will give you something called a topic summary. And basically, when you are looking at that relevant case, you see topic summaries might be worth taking a look at. sometimes they will be really helpful and sometimes they will be totally useless. So in our particular case, we look at the different topics summarized for us by Lexis, and again, under pension benefits law, suit to recover plan benefits. What our client wants to do, right? So we take a look, and what it's doing is it's telling the plaintiff is empowered to bring this action by section 1132 of ERISA. So this topic summary isn't talking about our preemption question quite as directly, but it is talking about bringing a suit to recover plan benefits. And it's telling us the plaintiff is empowered to bring this action by 1132. Now, we haven't talked about this much because I've been focusing on 1144 and preemption for the sake of showing examples in class. But again, for our client, what you might wind up wanting to investigate is how does one bring a suit to recover benefits under 1132? And here's a topic summary that A, highlights this for us if we haven't already written that down as something to investigate after we figure out preemption. And B, gives us a start on that. So it gives us some seminal cases. I wouldn't rely on this as the only cases of interest by any means, but certainly starting with those good cases is good. Gives us elements, so it gives us a little explanation, very little explanation, a paragraph of about 1132. Obviously the reference, and it even gives us some secondary sources in our very own Hofstra Labor and Employment Law Journal is referenced. Just coincidentally, but hey, that's cool. Standards of review. So here's an example where our topic summary actually might be pretty useful. No guarantees. If you wanted to see what topic summaries were available to you on Lexis, I'm not sure why you would, but in case you do, you can, in the main search bar, just type in the word topic and start to type in summaries, and you'll see one of the choices is legal topic summaries, and you could search. And so it adds it to our filter, so we're now filtered up there, and I could search for ERISA or preemption or whatever else is of interest that I might want to see a topic summary, and you can see the list here of topic summaries relating to my search terms. Any question about headnotes? I'm going over it fairly quickly, but that's because I'm hoping that it relates back to what we talked about with Westlaw. It just looks a little different. Basically, you click on the link, you can click on Get Documents, and then you have the filters that we still do, search within results. Again, it's going to be really useful. Many of you already appreciate that, which is good. Lexis also has advanced search. We can get to it a couple of different ways. I can limit by content type and get to cases, or I can just click on advanced search up here, which is what I'll do. And then scrolling down here, I will tell Lexis I want to search advanced search for cases. And kind of the same concept, I can choose all of my terms. So if I want liability and HMO, so I get all of these terms. And then I can, and now the thing you want to keep track of, and this is a mistake I still make a lot, for this part, when I see that add button, I have to click on it to put it in my search bar. So now you see after clicking on add, it's gone up to my search bar. For these document and segment fields, segment is just another name for field, I can search, and you can see the type, the different parts of a case. So there's the citation, the name, the core terms. These are the different parts in Lexis. So I could just search headnotes. I could search any of these. Notice we also see, we actually see written by, opinion by. Written by is any opinion, so concurring, dissenting, or the majority opinion. Written by is any of those. Opinion by is just the majority opinion. So Lexis actually distinguish those for us. If you're searching the Supreme Court and you only want to see majority opinions by Justice Scalia or whatever your preference is, you can see there's actually concurrence and dissent, so you could specify those as well. You could just search headnotes. So I/chair. If you'll forgive me for getting a little lazy, I'm not going to type out the whole search just so you can see how it works. And again, I can narrow search within results by jurisdiction. Let's just take a look at the first case so you can see what a advanced search, case search on Lexis looks like. So you can see where our terms appear. And if we scroll down, you would see the results in our head notes. My scrolling is going a little too quickly. So that should bring us, should have brought us in there. But anyway, our head notes search, our terms would be in there. Let's do that. There we go. So we can see denial of benefits in the head notes. It's a long case. There are a lot of head notes. I wonder I was having trouble finding it. So again, we've got the head note search, a lot more straightforward, I think. The advanced search, pretty much the same, just a list of fields. You have to remember to click on add. Any questions? And it will come, I think, as no surprise to any of you that Bloomberg doesn't have quite as sophisticated, nearly as sophisticated. Bloomberg does have head notes. So if we go to our good friend Aetna and we pull up the case. Is that a question or just a stretch? Okay. Fair enough. So we see the head notes under Bloomberg here. You can see the whole topic path. I'm not sure it's really that interesting. And if you click on the head note, kind of like Lexis, it will give you other cases that are classified under that head note. Of course, Bloomberg does not have search within results, which is a drawback, but we can filter at least by, of course, so we only can filter here by court opinions, and that's because I didn't do a search. I just pulled up Aetna. And did a head note search. Any questions? Okay. Actually, I should point out the other. If you did want to search by topic, the best substitute I found on Bloomberg is if we were to go to search and browse, choose court opinions, what Bloomberg does provide for us. So if you are in an institution that just have Bloomberg, you can limit by topic. So if we were to browse our topics, you see a list that sounds like a lot of legal topics we've seen. And you could tell Bloomberg, I just want to search on the health topic. And so you can see I clicked on health and there's health, and I could search keywords. And actually Bloomberg does in this screen have a judge field, so you could also search by judge as well. And I could search by more than one topic. I just clicked on health. I could go down here to insurance and tell Bloomberg, yeah, include insurance as well as health. Okay. Any questions? So in the rest of the workshop, take a quick look at Lexis, Bloomberg, and Google Scholar for cases. And I know there's not a great deal of time left. Don't worry about it. We'll have time next week to finish up. So if you have any questions, I'll be floating around again. And I will choose that.